Hey everyone, welcome back to Girl Talk. Thank you so much for joining me. Before we get started today, if you could give me a like, share, thumbs up, comment, all that other good stuff, I would appreciate it. You guys are the bestest ever. So, today, I think what we're going to do, and we'll see how this goes because I can go in a million different directions. So, what I plan to do and what's really going to happen, not sure. Go with me here, guys. So, um, the past two videos that I did were on Mackenzie Shirula's parents. And in my intro video, I talked about how I like trials and things like that. And the one thing that I noticed in all the trials that I watched, whether it was the Darrell Brooks trial, the Wade Wilson trial, the Clayton Eckert, who that's the Bachelor, and the Laura Owens trial, that one is so hot right now. Um, the one thing that I noticed is the common denominator is that they're all narcissistic. They all have that personality. And in real life, if you've ever experienced that, it will make your head spin. And unfortunately, I was married to one. Um, and I, before I really get into the nitty gritty of this, I do want to say that this is not just for women. We don't discriminate on this page. This is for men too. And believe me when I say, I realize that women can be assholes too. So, there's no judgment here. Um, but I kind of have to take you back on a little bit of a time travel back to how I was raised. I was raised by a lot of strong women. The bloodline is is strong. My nan, we talk about our grandmothers, and we think of a little white haired lady, and they're making cookies and baking pies and everything. That was not my nan. My nan was like the godfather. If you piss nan off, you were terrified. You did not want to disappoint nan. And then when she decided to put her hands on her hips, you were like, shit. I am in trouble. And yeah, now was kind of scary at first. Um, but it's funny because my daughter got away with things that me and my brother did not. Go figure. Um, it's always like that, though, right? Um, so I was on my own. I had my daughter single. So when I got married, I married the bad boy. I also married a person that was enabled by his parents, actually by his mom. And I don't want to go too far into it, and I will give details as my page goes along. Um, but I just kind of want to talk a little bit about how it ended up and how I got out of it. Um, I do know that, again, they will have your head spinning. And again, I am strong willed. I feel I am anyway. And I am also strong willed. But he actually had me to the point that I could have been coming in from the rain with an umbrella, and he would say, "Are you sure it's raining?" And I'd have to go check. Now, that's an exaggeration. That's, of course, just an example. But you question yourself and you start believing everything they tell you. Now, let's just keep in mind here this is a guy who it's kind of funny to look at it now. This was a guy who called me names, called me stupid. I was called every name except my government name. Yet I had to sit there and teach him how to write a check out. Huh. Isn't that funny? Yeah, so about that. But anyway, as it went on, and as things got worse and worse, it was to the point that things were bad at home. They were really bad, and it was so toxic. But when went out in public, you would never know it. He was kind. He was helpful. Nobody believed me. And I think for a while, I don't even know if my family did, because they had never seen that side of him. He kept that tucked under pretty well until he couldn't anymore. And the one thing that my brother had told me, I'll never forget this, and he's like, you need to get the fuck out of there. And it wasn't until many years later when I finally did have the courage to leave. And when I say courage, it took everything I had because the chaos became comfortable. And I look back now and I'm thinking, first of all, there should be no chaos. I am not saying that life doesn't happen, things go wrong and you fight and argue and carry on, and that's normal. This was beyond that. Um it was mentally abusive, it was physically abusive, um it was walking on eggshells, it was praying that you didn't say the wrong thing to piss them off. It was you go to work, meaning me, and I'll stay home and not work. And I was just as bad because I enabled him, and I should have never done that. What I should have done was, because we were together for 20 years, married 16, and he worked maybe, I don't know. I don't even know if he worked 10 years out of all that. I worked, and thankfully I had a really good job at the time, and I supported me, him, my daughter, and his two children, which were my stepchildren. Um, and I was able to do it, but there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that were put into that. And does it piss me off? Absolutely. And like I said, if I could go back that very first day that he did not have a job, I would have been like, either you get a job or I am leaving and I am not coming back. The ground rules should have been put in place. I did not do that. That was on me. It got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't look at him. I couldn't listen to him. Not one more minute. And I don't know what happened, but I was just done. And the one thing that was going on at that same time was my daughter was on her way of moving out. So we kind of had the empty nest syndrome about ready to go on there. And for me to be with him by myself, there's no way. There's just no way. Excuse me. But what I do want to tell you is that driving away from there, I looked in the rearview mirror, and I always tell everybody, when you're driving away, do not look in that rearview mirror because you will question every decision that you are making. And you do. You question yourself because they have you that brainwashed that you think that you can't make it without them. But really, what was he giving me? The only thing that he was giving me was anxiety. My mental health was shit. And honestly, what really did it for me was I got sick. And I'm a little person to begin with. And I lost 10 pounds in a month's time. And I'm thinking, my God, what is going on here? I thought it was from stress. I didn't know. And I went to the doctor. They did blood work and everything, couldn't figure it out. And even the doctor said, "Are you eating?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm eating." And then my eyes kind of got a little gritty and scratchy and things like that. The heart palpitations started, and I just couldn't figure this out. I'm thinking, what is going on here? And long story short, it ended up being my thyroid. And I actually have Graves' disease, which is when your thyroid is hyperactive. So it was in overdrive, which was why every system in my body was going at warp speed. So that's kind of what happened. And the last and final straw was I actually had a doctor's appointment for a specialist for my thyroid, and I was terrified. And he was supposed to go with me, and there was substance abuse things going on as well that I did not know about. I left when I found out. That's a lot of things, or that's one thing that a lot of people don't know. They thought I knew, so they didn't tell me. I didn't know. And everybody's like, how could you not know? Because I was working. I was busy trying to support a family that, I thought was going to be forever. I wanted the white picket fence. I wanted um, the I wanted to be able to retire and sit in the rocking chairs on the porch and everything. I wanted that life. And my parents were divorced when I was 12. I never wanted to be a statistic and be called divorced. But when I let him know about my doctor's appointment, he said he would go with me. Okay, fine. And it ended up that the day before, I had talked to him, and he said, maybe you would like your mom to go with you. And I kind of started crying, and we were on the phone, and I kind of just got really quiet because I didn't want him to know that I was crying. And I ended up going by myself, and now I am going to cry. I'm such a wuss. Oh, don't mind me. Let me just tell you, when I say that I come from a family of strong women, we don't cry. That ended with me because I am a crier. I don't care. But so that's just that. That's me. It's my personality. Sorry. Um, but I ended up going by myself. And, the doctor said, it's very possible that this is autoimmune. And I just want to kind of warn you about that. And the one question that I asked her, I said, here's a stupid question for you. And I said, could it be that stress brought out this autoimmune thing if that's what's going on? And honestly, the answer shook me to my core. And she said, absolutely, because autoimmune diseases love stress. Loves it. So that happened. And he didn't care to know about it. He didn't get educated. He didn't want to hear about it. And just didn't care. I was no longer a priority. And I don't think I ever was. His friends were, his substances were. I was always in the back burner. I was never first. And after that, it's like, you know what? Something's got to change here because now it's affecting my health. And when I drove away that day, I looked in the rear view and I did. I questioned every damn decision I ever made. I left with a tote, one tote, and it had clothes and makeup in. I worked with the public, so I had to look half decent. I couldn't go in my jammies. And I went to my mom's, and I didn't go back. The next time I went back was when I packed. And we see, I don't know about you, but I have friends, on Facebook and things like that. And when they're going through something, they put different quotes down, or they're getting bitter, or they're getting pissed off, or they're stressed. And you just know that something not right is going on, but you really don't want to ask because it's not our business unless they put it out there, right? You don't want to be that nosy person. I didn't tell anyone. I was embarrassed because I thought I failed. And I thought that for a very long time. And I had moved in with my mom, and it was the best thing I could have ever done. And I started to get better. I started, taking the thyroid medication and things like that, and really focusing on me, which is very, very hard to do. Let me just tell you, that feels so damn selfish when you have to focus on yourself. It doesn't feel right. It's like you don't know you don't know how to do it because you're so busy taking care of everyone else, and your cup is just so damn empty, and you're so run down. You're mentally drained. You're done. You're just done. And the job that I had worked for many years that did support us was a technology job. And in technology, we've always told everyone, when your stuff doesn't work, shut down or restart, right? So even now, your phone doesn't work, your cable doesn't work, internet doesn't work, whatever, shut down, restart, and 99% of the time it'll fix the problem. Well, people are like that too. I had to shut down. And by shut down, I don't mean a nervous breakdown, although I probably could have. Um, but it was I needed to be able to breathe, and I could finally do that, but I didn't know how. And I'm thinking, here I am at what, 38, 39 years old, starting all over again. And it was like a teenager trying to navigate. I didn't know what to do. So, one of my friends, and I'll never forget this, this is probably the best advice I have ever been given. And guys and gals, if you can use it, go ahead. Um, Good friend of mine, we used to meet for breakfast every couple weeks. And we met for breakfast, and I walked in, and the first thing she said to me, she's like, "You look like shit." And you know that it's a good friend when, you're sitting there and you're like, okay, I'm not going to get mad at you for saying that because I knew what I look like, and I trusted her, and I love her to death. And I explained what was going on and things like that. And before we left, she gave me a hug and she said, "You 24 hours." And I said, "Okay, 24 hours for what?" And she said, "Today, you can cry. You can scream, go yell at a tree, go do what you got to do. Whatever you need to do to get it out of your system, you do it. But tomorrow morning, you get your shit together. And that day, I drove home and I walked down the field. I'm crying, I'm yelling, I'm throwing a fit. And the next day, I got my shit together. It wasn't all at one time. Believe me, it came in little tiny pieces, but it was there. Another friend of mine that I had known since high school, and I actually, if you had listened to my other video, we kind of went to bush parties together. So he knew that, a good friend of mine. And he had visited me over at my mom's. And he said, "What happened to the no nonsense girl that I used to know?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know where she went and I can't find her." And he was like, "Well, you need to." And I'm like, "I know. I just don't know how." And so I kind of had to reinvent myself. And I wanted to do that in a way that I had to be happy with myself. And that was hard. You know, and I say that because we think about a narcissist, right? You're not going to change them, but they will change you. Um, they will take your self esteem. They will make you question everything that you know. And they will take away everything from you and not have a care in the world as long as they are profiting from it. And that is the one thing that I learned. And when I moved into my first apartment on my own, I'll never forget, it was 11 o'clock at night. Now, keep in mind, I've always had my daughter with me. Um, I had her when I was 19 years old. So even when we moved into our first apartment, it was just me and her. I've always had her there. So when I moved into my apartment, I'm now, 42, 41 years old. I move into my apartment, 11 o'clock at night. I'm unpacking and I am crying like a baby. Again, the crying part, here I am, um, because it was so quiet. The silence was deafening, and there wasn't enough background noise, there wasn't enough TV, there wasn't enough music to silence the silence, if that makes any sense. And if you've ever been in that situation, you understand where I'm coming from. Um, but I got there, and now, and here's the light at the end of the tunnel. Um, there's peace, there's comfort. Um, I don't walk on eggshells anymore. I don't watch what I say anymore. I don't have to have someone rely on me who doesn't want to help themselves. And it feels fucking fantastic. Think about that. Isn't that awful? I feel kind of bad almost saying it, but not that bad. Um, he put me through hell. And we had talk later. We actually got along for a little bit. And there was a situation that happened that I won't get into right now, but um, him and his family can kind of kiss my ass at this point. And I will explain some of this in future, but like I said, I don't want to go there right now. Um, but when we had talked, he did apologize and he said, "It's my fault." I said, "Yeah, it is." I said, I will take 1% of the blame. You're taking 99% whether you like it or not. He did not disagree. Um, was I perfect? No. Hell no. Um, but I tried. And if you're in that situation, get out. And I know that's easy for me to say. And I know, believe me, I know it is hard to leave and start over. And it doesn't matter if you're starting over, in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how old you are to start over. It is difficult. It is heart wrenching. And then you start questioning your own decisions. I get it. You're all over the place. But I promise you, the peace is so much better than the chaos. And I think in today's world, we have enough stress in the world that, you know what, it just isn't worth it. It is not worth it. So that's kind of the message that I wanted to give to you today. And, of course, going into the weekend and things like that, um, find your peace. And that may look different for a lot of people. For some, it might be finding a new hobby. For others, it might be, um, you know, partying in your 50s because you raised your kids and you did the family thing and all that other stuff. It might be um, it might be come in a lot of different forms and a lot of different things, but please find your peace and get out. It is not worth it. And the other thing that I want to tell you is a lot of people don't want to leave because of material things. And that is the one thing that I do want to explain to you. He was actually in a car accident back in 2001. Sorry, 2001 or 2002. I don't remember anymore. But anyway, he had gotten a settlement from that, and he bought a house with that settlement money. And again, as I said, me and my daughter had our apartment. We were perfectly fine. He had moved in with me. But it was kind of funny because as soon as I moved into the home that he had bought, it became his house, not ours. It was his house. It was constantly thrown in my face. The problem was, um, who paid the taxes? Who paid the bills? He wasn't working. So guess who? It was me. Should I have done that? No. I should have let him lose the place. Or maybe his mom could have came up with the money because she's been supporting him ever since, but that's on her. If she wants to do that, have at it. I don't care. Um, but to have that constantly thrown in your face that it's my house, it's my house, well, then fucking pay for it. Because if it wasn't for me, he would have lost it a long time ago. Um, that still angers me a lot. Um, but the moral of the story and why I tell you that is a lot of people don't want to leave their homes. They don't want to leave their material things. And I get it. We work so hard for the things that we have, and you don't expect it to be taken away from you. You don't expect it to be stolen. You don't expect it to be pawned so they can get dope money. But that's what happens. And material things can always be replaced. It may take a while, and you may have to work your ass off. You may have mismatched furniture, and believe me, I do. But the cool thing about it is, I gotta tell you this, and sidetrack here, everything that I have has actually come from my family. I didn't take much when I left. I took the kitchen table. Um, I took toilet paper. Well, Well, I just did. Sorry, but I did. I left silverware. You got to give me some credit here. Um, But, my furniture all actually came from family. And the really cool thing about it is none of it matches. But I have some things from my brother, my mom, um, my daughter, and every little piece reminds me of someone in my family and someone that is so dear to me. So, you know what? My stuff doesn't match, but unlike his four walls that he paid for, I think I kind of won in the end because I made my apartment a home. He has a house. There's a big difference between the four walls of a house and the love of a home. Think about that, guys. So, this weekend, I hope you find peace. I hope you find love. And I hope that your home is filled with love. And we'll talk soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.